What's up to Lion Talk Live? So we love you too, buddy.
What's going on, guys? It is Aiden Hutchinson.
What's up, man? It's your boy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What's up, everybody? It's Calvin Johnson Jr. here, a.k.a. Megatron, a.k.a. First Ballot.
What's going on, Coach Dan at Lions Talk Live and the Duke Crew. This is Ball Hawk Ifeatu Melifonwu of the Detroit Lions. Everybody make sure you help support the YouTube channel Lions Talk Live by clicking that like and subscribe button. Let's get it and go Detroit.
Greetings and salutations to everyone out there in YouTube land. This is Dan Skipper, offensive weapon for the Detroit Lions. Make sure you all help support Lions Talk Live and Coach Dan by clicking on that like and subscribe button. Everybody, woo!
I love nothing more than watching Lions Talk Live every morning. Woo!
All right, well, greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. I am your host once again, Dan Thornton, and I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us here. It is a Friday morning show edition of Lions Talk Live, and I think we've got a couple things for you all to debate today. We got some 5 headlines now. We got the main topic of the day, and as you probably paid attention to the thumbnail as you clicked into today's link, you know, there's some growing talk around the NFL about who may do this in the draft, who may do that in the draft. And as we all know, Brad Holmes, he likes to roll the dice a little bit more in the draft, on draft day, I should say, for potential trades than seemingly during any other portion of the year. So could this be a year where Brad Holmes does say, you know, hey, we're going to make a targeted move? We're going to debate the merits and thoughts behind such a move or moves in today's main topic of the day. Also, bottom of the hour, we have Kurt the Hitman Steele coming on over to give us his expert analysis and opinions. He is, as you guys know, the boss of the, he is the boss of the Boss Up Ball Out podcast. Maybe the host and the boss. Maybe he's a little bit of both. Anyways, let's get this going. Real quick, if you haven't yet subscribed to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so, making that push for 13,300 subs. We're about 82 subs away from that. So if you can help out that, I would be surely thankful. Also, if you have half second of time, it is, after all, free of charge. It doesn't cost you a dime. Reach on down, hit that thumbs up button, that like button, hit all the buttons. We try to get every episode of the show between 200-300 or more thumbs up or likes. So if you can assist with that, that would be most welcome. Also, if you are perhaps looking for something to read, maybe this weekend, maybe in the upcoming weeks or so, go ahead and go over to Amazon.com or wherever you find great reading literature and order yourself a copy of Kajora book. It is the first in a 9-part series. The second releases later this year. If you like historical fictional novels based on actual events with fictional characters, this might be something for you. It involves Native American and Japanese cultures about 1,000 years before Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. So samurais, ninjas, and you have Native American warriors. So if you enjoy that kind of thing, maybe check it out and leave a kind review if you enjoy the novel. All right, let's get the show rocking and rolling and going, and let's head over to the first segment. And as you probably already know, it is 5 headlines now. 5 awesome and glorious headlines coming at you now. Report: Lions planning to release former All-Pro. Story by John Vicario of Athlon Sports. So this story actually came out yesterday, but since I had a coach yesterday, didn't really have time to get to it. Figured I'd wait until today's 5 headlines now to dive in. Unfortunately, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, he's been a stud here with the Lions twice, 2 different tours of duty. And, he's been a great locker room player. He's been a captain. He's been a special teams ace. He's, got on the field in key situations and made big plays on defense. Unfortunately, Father Time is not kind to any of us, and it does appear the Lions have formally announced that Jalen Reeves-Maybin will be released relatively soon from the team. I'm saddened by this just because, this guy is one of the few remaining Lions who have been through the Quintricia era and all that other stuff. I mean, there's just not a lot of those dudes left on the team. I know Taylor Decker's out there, and I want to say there's one other player that's name's escaping me at the moment. But we get it. He's a long-suffering Lions player who's now seen the franchise turn it around, get back, get healthy, and, be one of the best in the NFL. With the Lions moving on from him, apparently, will they free up a little bit of cap space? Sure, some of it. but it does appear they're doing it just because they feel like his time with the Lions and his time as one of the all-pro type players, or just a real impactful player on special teams and at times on defense, it's come to an end with the team. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he latches on with somebody else. I don't know how much longer his NFL career is going to go. Let's also not forget he's also the NFLPA president for a bit. And you might even remember there were some reports that maybe he sold out the Lions on a couple different practice, faux pas, I guess you could say. I don't think the Lions held that against him. At least I would think not, but I don't really know either. Either way, his time here is done, it would appear, and hopefully he latches on with somebody else. So kudos to Jalen Reeves-Maybin. Enjoyed him as a player for the Detroit Lions. All right, grade the trade proposal. Lions try to bolster pass rush with 5-time Pro Bowler. Sideline report, Brad Berriman with this one. Brad Berriman, he's got this story, an idea that the Detroit Lions might try to bolster their pass rush by trading for this particular Pro Bowler. The trade would be this. Lions give up a 2025 fourth-round pick. They would trade that to the Los Angeles Chargers and get Joey Bosa. Now, Joey Bosa, I think 3 years ago, pretty dang good player. Maybe even one of the better pass rushers in all the NFL. You could say to a certain report, maybe he does have a season or two left in him. But as we've talked about with other potential trade options for the Lions this offseason, a lot of them do seem to have some injuries going against them. Not all of them, but I think most would say Joey Bosa has had in the last 2 years or so a bit of a injury situation. Bosa carries a cap hit of over $36 million in the final year of his contract. So that doesn't sound like a Brad Holmes move to me, and I sure wouldn't give him a fourth-round pick for a guy with that kind of cap hit and injury history. But could the Lions do it? I guess what I would say is, if I'm the Brad Holmes, why? If you have questions if he's going to be on the field on a regular basis and you've got to pay that kind of cash to him, to me, it seems more likely if they're going to add Bosa, I'd wait for him to get cut if the Chargers are going to move off him. And it does sound like the Chargers are considering releasing him. Either that or he's got to take a significant pay cut. I also think that you could probably get a little bit more out of a fourth-round pick than Joey Bosa. Now, if you're talking a 6th or 7th-round pick and he was agreeing to restructure his contract, I probably would pull that trigger just to see if he can be a rotational piece with, Smith and Hutchinson and whoever we draft or add during the draft, then I'd probably be more on board with that. But I guess, new crew, ultimately, what do you guys have to say? You know my opinion. What's your opinion? Just put Bosa yes, Bosa no, and let me know what your thoughts are. All right, next to the 5 glorious headlines now. He's one of us, end quote. Dan Campbell praises KC Rogers, Detroit Lions on SI, story by John Macarone. So, for those who don't know, Dan Campbell, Detroit Lions, their pass rush was not great once Aiden Hutchinson went down last year. New defensive line coach Casey Rogers has a proven track record of being one of the top defensive line coaches throughout the entire National Football League. They brought him on board specifically because of his body of work he's done across his time in the NFL with multiple different players and what he's been able to do to consistently get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their defense in the top third of the league in sacks. In each season, Rodgers has been working with the defensive line. He's got one heck of a, I guess you could say, a rap sheet, resume, whatever you want to say, across the NFL. And yes, I think he's going to have an impactful season with the Detroit Lions in the pass rush in regards to everybody on the team, not just one or two particular players. Rodgers has familiarity with Lions coach Dan Campbell as the veteran defensive line coach, worked with the Cowboys for 2 seasons in 2003 and 4 when the former NFL tight end was, Dan Campbell was there as a player. Also, Campbell and Rodgers were on the Miami Dolphins staff for a period of time where they worked together. And I think most of you guys probably remember MCDC was the intern coach there for a brief moment as well. So will Rodgers be as impactful as the Lions are hoping? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I do think based on his resume, based on his track record, you're going to see noticeable improvement from a lot of different players across the board. It's just every coach has their strengths. Every coach has their weaknesses. And what I can say is if you look at Rodgers, that is, I think you're going to see the Lions be a lot more assertive, especially with hand placement. So when they get after offensive linemen, how they're going to try to displace the offensive linemen off their stance and get leverage on them. If you've ever worked with wrestlers, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you ever gone to a wrestling match, not like WWE, but like Olympic style wrestling, then you probably know exactly what I'm talking about in reference to that. All right, next to the 5 headlines now. Lions are revoking season tickets for excessive resale. This comes from WXYZ in Detroit. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been buying up tickets in the renaissance of the Detroit Lions just to resell them. Apparently, the Detroit Lions organization has become aware of this and wants to put the kibosh on it. They are aware Lions ticket prices are already up and away, and they know the resale department and snagging up tickets just to resell them is further exacerbating that situation. So apparently an email was sent out in the last 48 hours to a ton of different Lions ticket holders, bringing this up, letting them know that their tickets have been revoked and will now go back on the market because here's a quote from the Lions: to protect the integrity of our tickets and to do our best to serve our fans, the Detroit Lions conduct an annual review of our Lions loyal member accounts. A return review of your account activity indicates a level of resale and/or transfer activity inconsistent with personal use of your Detroit Lions game tickets. And we have made the decision not to renew your season ticket membership for the 2025 season. Detroit Lions season ticket memberships are a revocable license subject to the Detroit Lions ticketing policies. So in a nutshell, if you're somebody who buys Lions season tickets, you hold them and hopes to resell them on a regular basis, you're probably going to lose those season tickets. If not now, then probably in the foreseeable future. All right, last of the 5 headlines now. Lions were the NFL's most bet on team during 2024 season. Yes, Atlanta Sports, John Vaccaro with this one as well. John's been busy man, this guy. And yes, in case you didn't know, across the Vegas world, the betting world, nobody bet on teams more than the Detroit Lions, I guess, according to this report, with eight wins by 10 or more points as a perfect record on the road. Lions consistently covered spreads during their 15-2 season. They ended the season with the league's second best record against the spread at 12-5. So some of you guys know more about this than I do because, again, if you watch the show for any length of time, I just don't get into the betting side of stuff. I do report on it because I know a number of you guys do. But, hey, there you go. Kudos to the Detroit Lions setting another trend. All right, with all that done, set out of the way, let's go ahead and get over to the main topic of the day. What's more likely, I guess, is the question we should all be asking. We've heard all offseason, Detroit Lions are going to trade for Myles Garrett. Max Crosby, he's on his way. He's already packing his bags coming to Detroit. Greg Newsome, the second, or I think it is from Cleveland, he's going to come on over to Detroit. There's probably about 50 other trades I'm not thinking readily off the top of my head. I know we seem to have them suggested in the 5 headlines now, almost on a every morning show basis. There's somebody new coming to Detroit. Yesterday it was Landry from Tennessee. He could be a person of interest traded to Detroit. And not that there's not validity in some of these. What I would say is anytime there's a rumor based on somebody talking about something. So somebody did bring up a topic at one point that got somebody else to think about it. At least that's my opinion on most rumors. There's a little bit of truth in all of them. But I think if you look at Brad Holmes' track record, it's more likely that he will make a draft day trade. In fact, you've got some reports as the NFL scouting combine is, coming out and going full circle, etc. You are getting more and more information that Brad Holmes, the Detroit Lions, are considering potentially moving up to acquire 1 or 2 players. If that holds water, who would you go after if you're Detroit? Now, I think most of us would agree the Detroit Lions want some sort of pass rush. It does appear there's probably 3 to maybe you could say 5 really good pass rushers in this first round-ish NFL draft. I think you could take Carter off the board. I don't see the Lions ever giving up enough capital to move all the way up to number 3 or 4 or 5 or somewhere in that range to acquire him. So if you take him off the board, we've talked about the usual suspects for some time. I have gone on record as saying I think the Lions, if they really want one of those dudes who's going to come in and potentially start, if maybe not right away his rookie year, but probably halfway through the rookie season, if he's going to come in and really play that kind of role with the team, you're probably having to move up somewhere, I don't know, 14 to 23. Somewhere in that range, you could probably lock in one of those guys. So if you're Brad Holmes, do you pull that trigger? And I know a number of you guys want us to get a defensive tackle as well. And there are, I would say this is a very deep draft for quality defensive tackles. And I'm not fully done with my reviews on players. And again, I'm not going to do it like I would, for a professional basketball player. I'm not going to put in that kind of work. I love the show. I'm not also going to spend, 3 weeks on a topic evaluating each defensive tackle out there. But what I will say is, I think there's probably about 20 to 24 guys that could come in and impact the Detroit Lions from the defensive tackle spot. If that's true, obviously the higher you get on that list, probably the more likely you're going to get somebody who's going to come in right away. I do think that means round 1 and 2 are probably defensive edge and defensive tackle. So what are you willing to give up, Duke Crew, to acquire the right guys at those spots? When I put up the show, I saw you guys were talking about it quite a bit in the comment section before I got on air. So what do you think? We've got, 7 or 8 draft picks. How many of those got to go this year and some from next year in order to move up far enough into round 1 and round 2 to acquire those 2 players? Who would be the 2 players you would go after? Do you think it's more likely? Here's another question. Right? Is it more likely the Lions trade for an existing NFL player, or do you think it's more of Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell type style to bring in rookie contracts that you can say, hey, we've got them for 4 to 5 years on these deals before we got to pay them another big bag? I do think it's more Brad Holmes type movement to make a draft day trade. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion, you guys let me know your opinion in the comments section. I can see the Lions move up to, we'll just say 20. You're probably giving up one of your thirds this year. You're probably also giving up a third next year and maybe a little bit of cheese on top of that, like a 5th, 7th round pick, something like that. You're moving up from 28 to 20, 22, something like that. I do think you basically both of the 3rd round picks you got for Aaron Glenn, they're gone, and you do probably have to give up something else. The 2nd round, that probably becomes more the challenge then, because now you've only got a limited selection of capital to work with this year to make that move. And I don't know if what I'm suggesting in the move up the 1st round would even be enough to move up that kind of spots. But maybe. 2nd round, I do think you could probably give up like a 3rd and maybe a 4th and move up maybe 10 spots, 15 spots in the 2nd round, which gets you to the middle of the 2nd round, maybe a little bit higher than the middle of the 2nd round. And then you could get somebody who's slipped down the draft a little bit. All right, I've rambled way too much about this one. Let's get over to you guys before Kurt the Hitman Steele slides on over. But do you like the idea of moving up in the draft? Who would you go after in the draft if you were to do this? And what would be the positions? Me, myself, and I think it would have to be a defensive tackle and defensive edge. But I know some of you guys are going to have different opinions. By all means, fire it on over in the comments section. And yes, I know some of you guys have been messaging me when we're going to do this 2nd Lions Talk Live mock draft. I don't know. How about over this weekend? Maybe do it Sunday or whatever. We'll do a live and an interactive mock draft this Sunday. So put it in your books. Let's do it Sunday. Go from there and see what all you guys have to say as far as who we're going to draft. All right, JDC, morning all. Morning, JDC. How you doing? Jameer, great salutations, and same to you. Aaron, morning, coach, and Duke Crew. Yes, trade up, and yes, we will. We will trade on up, and away. I do believe that's probably going to be what the Lions do. I don't see a situation, at least in the 1st round, where we would trade down. Just because, I feel like we talk about it a lot on the show. This team's pretty deep as is. If we didn't even have the draft, this is a pretty deep team. Now that you have free agency and the draft, I think it's going to be way deeper. I do believe this will be the best Lions team any of us have realistically seen. Jameer, there are some nice edges in the draft. There are. And I think for the Lions, if you want to get a starter, somebody who's going to come in day 1, and, maybe I shouldn't say a starter because you do have Zadarius Smith, somebody who's going to get a ton of snaps and reps and make you better, I do believe you got to get up a little bit higher than your current spot. Maybe somebody falls, but the defensive tackles are dang deep this year, and there are some real athletes at those positions too. All right, Jameer, Clark, Duke Crew, exclamation point, yes, exclamation point. Brad does make draft trades, so that would be more his norm. Yeah, I would agree with that. Frank Tank, what up, Doe East Side? Woo! Go Lions, 100%, 100%. And sorry if I'm a little tired today, guys. We had a game last night, our last game of the regular season. We finished 18-4. And I just didn't get much sleep. Well, I guess that's a good way to put it. Henry Moore, good morning, Coach Dan and Duke Crew. Exclamation point. What a team. What a podcast. What a time to be a Lions fan. Woo! Go Lions. Back at you, Henry. Good to see you, my friend. Big Eddie. Greetings, salutations, Coach Dan. Hey, Coach Dan. Not Lions news, but did you see the video how fans threw a basketball and other objects at a ref, not a fan. Monday at Benton Harbor at the end of the game. What's happening when something like that goes down? So, yes, I did see the video. And for those who don't know, the boys' playoffs for basketball started this week. Monday, that was the first round. Wednesday was the second round. Apparently, Wednesday, there was a big upset of Benton Harbor, who's always got a phenomenal boys basketball program. I mean, just as long as I've been alive, I can remember Benton Harbor boys basketball is one of the better ones in the state of Michigan. And they take great pride in their basketball down there and always have. I mean, it's as a coach, when I've coached schools that have, been in the same conference and we go there and play, I love the environment there because the place is packed. The fans are rowdy. Your bench as the away team is right next to the score table. And there's normally a ton of, big time Benton Harbor fans are sitting there razzing you in your ear, talking to you, talking trash. But I can also say this, when the game's over, you can sit with those guys and they'll talk basketball to you all day long, and always had a great time down there. The unfortunate side is apparently there was an upset when the Benton Harbor did lose. And then after the game, I don't know if it was players or fans or whoever it was. They started bombing basketballs, some water bottles. I don't know. There's probably some other stuff, and hit this poor ref in the head multiple times, knocked him down to the ground. He looked like he was down and pretty dazed, and then security, law enforcement show up and get him out of there. It's unfortunate when stuff like that happens. My anticipation is not only the schools involved, but then the governing body for high school sports in Michigan, the Michigan High School Athletic Association, probably will step in. And it's unfair to the kids on the team because I don't believe any of them were involved in it. I believe it was fans, parents, stuff like that. But you're probably looking at Benton Harbor getting some kind of punishment, hopefully not a death penalty, but hopefully it's just like a ban from postseason play for a year or something like that. I hope they don't ban them where they're, got a lifetime ban or something like that. But I don't know. They've got to do something because you can't have officials out there getting, targeted by fans and players. You can't have coaches. You can't have players. It kills the game. It kills sports. All right, Michael, good morning, Coach Dan and the Duke Crew. Please don't forget to smash the like and share. Another beautiful morning to wake up to. Can I please get my first Sheila? Woo! You know what? Hey, I will get you a Sheila Woo. How about a 1, 2, and I got to scroll down on the screen. And will you go? And thanks for that, by the way. Trey, what's going on? All question mark. I think we should try to move up in the first and second round, get 2 targeted, impactful athletes to help out. Yeah, and I know we talked about it to a certain degree yesterday. If it was me, and it's not, I probably would go for Mike Green and, if any way possible, Grant at defensive tackle, or at least somebody like him. Somebody with a motor, maybe not somebody who's a run stuffer. I mean, you want them all to stuff the run, but somebody who can get into the pocket and collapse the pocket, get after quarterbacks. I think that's what the Lions need next. To the Detroit D, greetings and salutations to everyone in the Duke Crew. Back at you. Good to see it. And hey, new profile pic. So good morning to you. Bo, good morning, Duke Crew. My thoughts combined with yours, question mark, considered. Woo! And hey, good morning to you, my friend. Anymore, if there is someone the Lions just had to have, just couldn't do without, I'd say dump your picks to move up and get that player. We're looking good now, but that one, I say go get him. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, it really comes down to, I don't think there's a right answer or a wrong answer. If you keep all the draft picks, hey, great. You've got, 7, 8 guys, good contracts for the foreseeable future. Come in, trusting your coaching staff to develop them. That also being said, I think the Lions are at the point where they don't need bodies. They need 1 or 2 or 3, game changers, or as close as you can get to a game changer. Because if you can add those guys to your front 7, I mean, you've already got 2, I won't say generational, but dang good safeties out there. I think TA is going to be a pretty good corner. We'll have to see about the rest of them, but I don't think you need a whole lot more on this team to make it really the team. So be targeted with who you're getting. Trey Tippin, I'm all for it. Get a starting edge and a tackle. Yeah, it's going to cost us. So, yeah, I would agree with that. It won't be cheap. And I knew I threw out some numbers for you guys to consider. I have no idea if that first round move up would be enough, but it's probably close. Robert, greetings and one and all back at you. JDC, Dre's for rocks, and he rolls, and I guess he's working on his mobility even now. So small. Trey Tippin, in your opinion, we have to move up into the mid-teens to get an edge that has any chance to impact us this season. What's that going to cost? It's going to cost a bit. Moving up 10-ish spots, yeah, it's not going to be cheap, man. It won't be. And I would just say as long as you can avoid giving up your second-round pick, you're probably doing okay. Frank Tank, when I saw yesterday combined, very impressive, but who knows what Brad's going to do. I know one thing, you're going to get a good players. Yeah, we're going to get some good players. This scouting department, this front office has proven in its time and tenure here in Detroit, they do an excellent job. So I have no doubt they're going to get somebody or players who are going to come on in and do well. Let's see, Just Big Eddie, seen that video. The ref might have been 90. Yeah, he was not young. Years old, and those fools hit him with water bottle basketball and some other stuff before the police walked him out. Yeah, and it's easy to be in the stand, say he should have done this or that. But one thing I would say is that as somebody who's coached forever, gauge the room, gauge the crowd. You could tell from that video, half the crowd was, celebrating a big win. The other half was, ready to tear down the banners from the hosting school. The only thing I'd say is probably in hindsight, the security should have been more aware of the situation and not allowed it to escalate that far. But, hindsight's always 20/20, right? Anymore, I'd say do whatever you can to maintain the continuity of the team, exclamation point, and just add the one or two that electrify our assault. Yes, if you can add more to that defense, you're going to be all right there. Stephanie, good morning, boys. Getting the kids ready to be dropped off. I do like the idea of us moving up in multiple rounds to target a few good players, not just adding a ton of rookies. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it too, 100%. Sure, I'm ready for the draft. I would love to see who we get. Yeah, me too. Now, we all think we know what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell are going to do, but we've been wrong before. What are they actually going to do? France, good morning, gang. Woo! And back at you. Enjoying the start of my vacation, and I'm about 6 hours into it. Hey, well, go enjoy it, my friend. Have a good time. Susan, do we have any ideas who Brad would want to get by trading up? I don't. I think it's probably going to be too early for that. And let's be fair. Even if we say we have an idea, do any of us really know? Probably not. But it would seem, Susan, that most of us seem to agree that it's going to be something on the defensive line. Mo, rises and falls at the combine. Very interesting. We'll probably have some real detailed reports from like Mel Kiper and other people in the next, week or so, where they're going to say, hey, based on the combine results, this guy moved up, this guy moved down, all that kind of jazz. Virgil, enjoy the vacation? France, 100%. You get an opportunity to go on vacation, go enjoy it. Steve, good morning to Coach Dan and the Duke crew. I think Coach Dan nailed it yesterday with the theory that they would make some trades to target 2 or 3 players in the draft. That's my belief, Steve. I mean, I've been totally wrong multiple times before. So what I would just say is you look across the board at this team. We've seen the last, 2 drafts, how many developmental players Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have intentionally targeted. The Giovanni Manus, Broderick Martin. I guess you could throw Rakestraw in there too. And there's other guys for sure. But since you have so many of those guys now coming on up and you're assuming they're ready to step into some pretty good roles, do you really see the likelihood of 5, 6, 8 guys adding to this roster? We've already got 51 under contract next year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 52, although I guess with Maben getting cut, you can take one off the list. But my point being, we all get it. You can only have 53. So what do you do with all those extra guys? All right, guys, let's real quick get over to our special guest of the day. You know him. You love him. He is the man with the plan, the host of the Boss Up, Ball Out podcast, Kurt the Hitman Steele. Kurt, how you doing this morning?
What up, though? Hey, what's going on, my man? How's everything going?
I am dragging this morning, man. Dragging hard. I am tired.
Congrats on your seniors having a senior night last night, and all the success you guys are having as a team.
We're doing pretty well. Now we've got the first playoff. We got a first round bye Monday. We play the winner of a particular game next Wednesday. And yeah, I stayed up probably way too long watching film of the two teams that we could play, trying to analyze stuff, get stuff ready for today's practice. So man, that Mountain Dew can't get here fast enough. But let's talk about the Detroit Lions here. We've got whatever it is, 50, 51 guys under contract.
Right.
Jalen Reeves-Maybin, yes, he's going to be released, it sounds like. What do you think the Lions need to do with these 7 or 8 draft picks they have? I've been suggesting that they need to, instead of trying to keep 7, 8 guys, need to move up for 1, 2, maybe 3 very specific guys. You're Brad Holmes. What are you doing with this draft?
Yeah, you're moving. You're not taking 7, 8 guys this draft. It just doesn't make any sense. So they're not going to make the roster. So you use those picks to move up and down the draft board. So I just think that that's what he's going to do this year. It just makes sense because, like you said, like we have a lot of guys that's already on this roster, and it's going to be hard for. We've said this before, as the team has this core in place, and it's going to be hard for guys to make this roster, young guys to make this roster. It's like it was hard for the guys last year to make this roster.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that they use some of these draft picks to move up and down the draft board to get what they want, or a person who they want, or maybe even trading the picks for a particular player that they want that's on another roster right now. So I mean, you could use all of these draft picks in a certain way where you can make the most of your off season, be it either trading up and down the draft board or trading for a player that's on another roster.
So when you look at the combine, and we've heard some chatter about MCDC and Dan Campbell already talking to some guys there. It sounds like so far they're mostly focusing their chats and conversations with defensive line players, edges, tackles, etc. You look at where the Lions potentially could trade up to, and I know we've been speculating it in the chat already this morning, somewhere like the early 20s, maybe late teens. Who do you think's there for the Lions to potentially grab?
That's really up in the air for me. I mean, you look at some of those edge rushers. You look at a guy they may target like a Green or a Grant. You know what I'm saying? Grant out of Michigan, where he's a high second round, low first round grade.
Yeah.
And what he can bring to this defensive line. And then you look at some other guys like the young guy out of Alabama that just, I think we ran like a 4 or 5 yesterday, or 4-2, something crazy, ridiculous. Like you have a lot, you guys have got a lot of guys who are flying around the board. What's his name? Campbell out of out of Alabama, and already know that's Brad Holmes' favorite school. He's I think with the last 3 years he drafted a player out of Alabama the last 3 seasons or something like that, or except for like so. Yeah, because it has last 3 seasons, because he double dipped with Branch and J-Mo, and then you definitely had Jahmyr Gibbs last season, and then of course you have Terry Arnold. So yeah, I don't see where, if that guy's available, he doesn't make a move for one of those. And they have another defensive end or outside linebacker at Alabama as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. But like you said, I have noticed that most of the players the Lions are talking to in this particular edition of the Combine, which I think is on its last legs, will be defense.
Okay. So let's Scooby-Doo this then, if you got a second. Let's say the Lions go for some edge in the first round. What do you think they do in round 2?
I still think that either interior offensive line or they go for another member of the secondary.
Okay. Anybody jumping out in your early reviews for the secondary who could be in there? Because, man, if you're talking about Arnold and then Rakestraw and now you're adding somebody else out there, that's a pretty good investment, that secondary.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that young fella. They have a good safety out of Alabama. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And he's another version of a guy like Brian Branch. He can play safety. He can play corner. You can't have enough of those guys that are versatile on your roster. So And I did a video the other day on LNU about the Terry Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw and what to expect from them in this upcoming season. Go check that out. Do a little, it's never bad to do a little self promotion, but yeah. But yeah, they have a young safety, and he's played that star position, exactly the same position that Brian Branch played in the league, and he has comparisons to him. So why not bring another guy that's like that? That he can play on the outside. He can play. He's a little taller than Brian Branch. I think he's like 6'1" or something like that. So this is a guy who, and he spent a lot of time in college. He's 23, so he's a seasoned member of the safety. So and he played 4 years at that star, and then last year he played safety. So yeah, you can never have enough guys on that back end. And we saw what the injury bug did to our secondary last year. So
you're not wrong there, man. So you go into this offseason, we got some free agency money we could throw at some players. It depends on how you work the numbers. Some are saying that we got, even with the new cap space, like 60-ish million. Others are saying 70 million. So I guess it comes down to who's doing the books. What do you think, if anything, the Lions try to invest in during free agency?
I think the first thing they're going to do is try to re-sign their own players. It's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to target Carlton Davis. They're going to target Kevin Zeitler and Derek Barnes, and try to keep those guys in the house. And once they do that and get and maybe get some of those guys on some team friendly deals, especially with Barnes because of the injury last year, and we drafted him. So if you look at that, I think that's maybe one area that they may go in. And then the other thing they may do with some of that cap space is, of course, try to extend some of our own players, you know what I'm saying? Like Aiden Hutchinson, and then Kirby Joseph has his contract, that we need to get him back in the building. So, we have some free agents that's coming up, man, but I think they want to keep their own guys in house first and foremost. And then, are they going to make a big splash? I think a big splash may come via trade than more likely than free agency.
Okay. If there was a big splash trade, you would be targeting. What's Kurt Steele pulling the trigger on?
There's a couple of players, maybe some secondary members, or maybe some defensive linemen. That's his name. Yes, Jahad Campbell was his name. Yeah, doing that. Yeah. Thanks, Lion. Is there a particular name that I'm like focused on? No, just because Brad Holmes is like, the guys that we probably be focused on probably aren't the guys that we were going to get. So if you look at, there may be a guy like a Travarius Ward out there from the 49ers, and, big corner. If we don't get a guy like Carlton Davis back in the building, that may be a guy that we can target to bring him in. So, and I heard you guys talking about Joey Bosa for you guys. Absolutely not. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, for everything you said about the injury history, his age, I'm not saying he's old because he's 29. He'll be 30 by the time this season starts. But
that contract,
because in the contract, in the injury history, yeah. Because you look at a guy, because you can't say he's too old. He's the same age as Myles Garrett. They're the same age, but they don't have the same injury history, and they don't have the same track record as their performance either. I mean, not saying that Bosa is trash, but is actually, I would say, if I would take any Bosa, it would be the younger one, but I don't like him either. But I would take the younger Bosa, and then I would definitely take a guy like Myles Garrett over him either. I would even look at Khalil Mack before I looked at Joey Bosa. And I don't like bringing Khalil Mack here either. So, there's a lot of guys I put in front of Joey Bosa.
So you brought up the point about the Lions wanting to re-sign their own first. That does seem like the team mantra, the path they'd like to go in the way they prefer. So that's also going to bring up the point: who do you resign as far as Aiden Hutchinson, Kirby Joseph, Jameson Williams? Do you sign any of these guys sooner? Obviously, the idea that you're going to save money in the long run, the faster you get them signed versus inflated price in the future. And who do you think's the first target, the second target, etc.?
First and second target has to be Aiden Hutchinson and Kirby Joseph, hands down. I think JMO may run into that 5th-year option type of deal, just because of the fact of the stuff that happened earlier in his career. Now I know he's coming along now, but I just think that that's a can they can kick down the road. Is Jameson Williams? They can kick him down the road a little bit. That's saying he hasn't been loyal to the Lions. He's been loyal to the Lions and been loyal to Detroit. I just think that he's maturing now. I mean, you think about his production last year. He had over 1,000 yards and not even close to what many receivers that have that many yards of receptions he had to get 1,000 yards. So, I just like I think he's finally getting it as far as being a professional athlete. And some of that has to do with his maturation process and the way he was raised. I mean, raised different than other people. Look at his background, man. A lot of the stuff that people get instilled in them at a younger age, sometimes everyone doesn't get it, and their family and their background makes up who they are and makes up how they act until they're shown differently.
Right. And you've probably heard, if you watch the show for any length of time, I use the wise word wisdom of Scott Mitchell from days of long ago, where he says, maturity isn't an age, it's a destination. And nothing against Scott Mitchell. I never enjoyed interviewing him. I thought he was a bit of a knucklehead. I didn't think he was a great leader as a quarterback. Might have been, might have had some good stats at times, but just from a locker room presence, I was like, man, this is not a good person to have in control of your team, my opinion. And at any rate, so for him to put that out there, I was like, wow. So, all right, let's move off. The ghost of Christmas past, Scott Mitchell. This upcoming season, how impactful do you think these rookies are going to be on next year's team? Because you've heard me talk about it. I think this has the potential to be the deepest Lions team any of us have ever seen. You don't have a whole lot leaving the building. If you resign a bunch of them and now you add a free agent or two along with this draft, if you hit this draft right, it could be pretty dang good. My question to you is, how good could this team be in 2025?
This is just as good they were last year. I mean, like, think about what we missed with all the injuries. They can be even better this year, and they're going to have a tough schedule. I mean, they had a tough schedule, kind of had a tough schedule last year. When you're a division winner and you're a first place team in the division, you play first place teams throughout when you play your other conferences or your other divisions in your conference. You're going to play the first place teams, and you look at this schedule we got coming up. We got some heavy hitters on this thing, but I'm not scared about any of that, because I think once they can get healthy and get on the field, they can be just as good or is it better than they were last year. And depending on who they get in the draft, they can be very solid as far as getting some contributors. I don't see us getting 4 or 5 starters like we had a normal year. 1 or 2 starters this year. Think about last year, we had pretty much one rookie started the whole season. That's Terry Arnold. I mean, and I don't see another space where a guy could come in and just take someone's roster spot unless we start just getting rid of people. So yeah, I think about 1 or 2 guys. Depends on what we can get in the draft as far as defensive end or defensive line, but I don't see them coming in. I think the only way that we get a rookie that's a starter early is we don't get someone back from injury that we thought we were, like a Liam McNeil. You don't get him back, as you have an opportunity for a rookie to come in and start, or maybe a second-year player. But and that's why, like a Kenneth Grant, right? If we don't get a Liam McNeil back, you may see that a player like Kenneth Grant come in and take a starting spot next to DJ Reader. So, and then he may just slide back into the rotation. So,
all right. We've, in the last few drafts, we've taken a lot of developmental guys, and some of them worked out. We've seen some returns on it. I get this year, all eyes are going to be on Broderick Martin. We talk about we need some interior defensive tackle depth, help. Do you think, I get we're probably going to have to wait until training camp to see, but do you think this kid has any chance to really pan out?
Writing's on the wall. This is what's that? This is the year. This is the make or break. So if you can't get down in your stance and you're still having the same issues that you're having, you may not make it past camp. Yeah. So yeah, I just gotta be honest. I mean, I like the kid, but I like the promise, mountain of a man, but my personal feelings for him has no bearing on what he can do on the field. And if he continues to have the same issues, getting dominated, I've seen him getting pushed over in the run game, getting pushed over in the pass game. I'm like, man, what, sometimes I think sometimes just you're a little too big if you don't know what to do with your size. You don't have any bend, you don't have any way to, you're not overpowering. So he's not any of those things right now. So I got to be honest, man. Like if he doesn't improve coming into camp, man, I could see a scenario where either he's practice squatted or he's not on the roster.
How about Sorsdale or Scoresdale, however you say his name?
Kobe Sorsdale's in that same type of, because people didn't really realize it last year. They moved him back outside last year. They moved him back to. He fell behind. He was already behind Yodi, but he fell behind Mahogany pretty fast, and they were talking about moving him back out to tackle. But is he an NFL style tackle? I don't know that. I don't know that he can compete. He's not even a swing tackle. Like Dan Skipper was our swing tackle. So I can't even say, I can't even give him kudos to say, hey man, at least they threw him out there, Right. Like I don't remember seeing him play one significant snap even when we had injuries last year.
Yeah, I mean, Sorsdale is what it is. Martin, I get he's got all sorts of metrics, like combine warrior or whatever. But like you brought up, he loses leverage. He stands up too tall. It's too easy for the interior offensive lineman to get under his pants and move him out of the way. I hope he pans out because he could be some if he does, but not looking promising early. All right. Why don't you go ahead, Kurt, and give yourself a shout out to everybody where they can find you, your awesome content. As always, man, thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man. I'm over at the Boss Up Ball Out podcast. You can see it right under my name, man. You can go out check me out at kurtsteele.com as well. We have some good stuff going on over there, man. Got some channel memberships. We're growing. You actually having a store coming. So check it out, man. You can be able to buy some Boss Up Ball Out gear, man. So make sure you check it out. We appreciate all the guys that come over from your show to our show. Each day they come over, man. We love the Do crew over there when they part of the Boss Up All Our family. We're just working hard, man. We still haven't gotten to the rhythm of going back live just quite yet, but we're doing our recorded shows 3-4 at least 2 days a week, and then of course we're dropping videos. My man Coach Mike dropping videos throughout the week, man. So make sure you come check us out on the Boss Up All Out podcast. Check out your boy Kurt Steele. I'm doing weekly videos over at Lions Nation Unite. So join the movement, man. Be a part of the community that is Lions Nation Unite, man. You know that we hold it down over there with my man Herm and the heavyweights and Coach Dan and all those guys, man. And a special shout out to our man Anthony, man. His mom's in the hospital. So prayers to Anthony and his mom, man. Hopefully things that will get better and she gets well soon.
Well, and thanks for bringing that up. I know he was going to come on the show this week, but did mention something about his mom. So thoughts and prayers for Anthony at Roar Lions UK. All right, Kurt Steele, we'll get everybody over to your show. And hey, once again, man, thanks for hopping on.
I appreciate it, man. All right, Do crew, we'll holler at y'all. What up, Do?
All right, we'll see you, man. All right, guys, I'm going to end this this show here today just so I can actually go get a Mountain Dew and try to wake up because, man, I am struggling. Hey, that's part of being a coach, so that's part of the life. You got to try to do everything you can to put your team in a good position to succeed. And I probably got up way too early or didn't get enough sleep, however we want to term it, man, to try to get ready for today's practice. Then I'm going to give the kids Saturday, Sunday off. Then we're going to go at it hard again on Monday, watch the game to figure out who we're going to play next Wednesday and all that stuff. It's exciting times in basketball nation if you're one of the teams, players, or fans watching. So it's that time of year. All right, guys, I'll get you out of here. Of course, if there is breaking news later today, I'll get it over to you as quick as possible. Otherwise, if you would be so kind before checking out, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit all the buttons. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Do something kind for someone you don't know. We'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. See you guys.
Excuse me, sir, would you... Donations to Reverend Moon? Just Witness for Jesus?
Read about Jehovah's Witness? How about Buddhism?
Of Jerry's kids? Oh, yeah. Scientology?
Or nuclear power?